Uh, Welcome all. I see we have people joining up. Some people have been on for the few minutes already, enjoying. Well, I hope you were the slideshow. These are pictures mostly my wife Heather took when we were in Provence last October and early November. I'm looking at the slideshow now, and I see there are a lot of stones. The stones are a big part of building in Provence. But it seems we have neglected to also take more pictures of nature and culture. But we'll see a bit of that in the slideshow coming up. So in the presentation coming up. So welcome. I'm going to try to look at a few faces here. I'm seeing you all now. That's great. And some of you, perhaps I will recognize your names, if not your faces, because I don't get to see much of the people that travel with us. But welcome. Those are names I recognize, and even some family members. Hi, Joanna, and others, and some names of people who've been traveling with us before. So there I see Sue and Constance. So welcome. And perhaps instead of just going on aimlessly here, I'll start my presentation. This presentation I hope will last maybe 30 or maximum 40 minutes, and at which point I will leave it open for questions. And if you do have questions, you can put them in the chat, and I'll get to them as we go along. So this presentation is to cover a little bit of Provence, to tell you a little bit of why, at least I think it's special, and to tell you a little bit about the trip that I'm about to publish on our website. I'm just finalizing the final details with the villa owners to make sure everything is clear. So here we go. So Okay, this is the structure of my presentation. I'll basically go over these topics. Why Provence? Where is Provence? In case you're wondering. A very tiny bit of history. Of course, hundreds of people have written PhDs on various aspects of history of Provence, but we'll cover it in about 2 minutes. Also, I'm not seeing my screen because I'm blocked by this, but the itinerary we'll be following while we are traveling are the villas we've booked. We're about to book, and our trip philosophy. I think when it's important when someone organizes a trip to come at it with a certain perspective. Otherwise, you're just throwing a whole bunch of things in a bag, and you end up, having a trip that has no overarching approach. And so I'll share with you what we're trying to do with this trip. So first of all, where is Provence? Provence, southeast of France. I'm sorry. Right here in down on the Mediterranean. I'm having difficulties connecting here. Okay, there it is. Now, if you blow up that part of France, we call this a region in France. The administratively, France is divided into departments, or kind of like states in the States or provinces in Canada, but they're grouped together in regions. The regions don't have that much power, but they give they do have a certain overarching role. So the region of Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur is located here. There's mountains, the Alps to the east, and then the lowlands to the west. And then you have the coast. The Alps, Côte d'Azur is that part of Provence, or I wouldn't even call that Provence, that part of that region that is all along the coast, very, very busy, highways all built up. And then you have Provence, which is perhaps because it's not on the sea, is not so built up, as you see in the Côte d'Azur. So Provence, we'll be visiting 3 parts of Provence, 3 regions of Provence: le Luberon, which is the most rural one, les Alpilles, and then also le Comtat Venaissin. So we'll go over that in the next couple of minutes. So for a bit of history, I think it's always important, I think, to know the context of places you're visiting. It gives you more appreciation and of your visit, so that you get into a bit more of the mind trip. I'm always very keen on making sure, or encouraging our guests to get on the mind trip. Sure, it's just so much fun to taste the good food and enjoy the landscapes, and meet the people, but it's also it's fascinating to try to get into the whole the whole history, the dimensions of the place you're visiting. But part of that is a history. So this part of the world, I mean, the earliest people we know living there were the Celto-Ligurians, who were living in that part of France. The Greeks came along and established trading ports in Marseille and Massilia, it was called back then. So the Greeks were there before the Romans. But the Romans arrived in the about 121 BC. They turned it into their own province. It was called the province of Rome. It was the first province outside of peninsular Italy. So they ended up calling it our province. And that's why today even it's called Provence. We'll be spending time in this part of the Roman province. You'll notice it's along some of the major transportation axes. So this, which means that we will see during our trip a lot of Roman vestiges, which I'm a bit of a Roman history buff, so I always find that interesting. So here's a famous Pont de Gare, the longest, the highest, the best preserved Roman aqueduct in the world. We'll be spending some time there. And this is me last fall. This is a ford over a creek, the part of the Roman roads built over 2,000 years ago. This is just the edge of the ford. It's much wider than that, but it's covered with dirt. And Roman armies marched here on the way to Spain. And then Romans, they had their time, and then things broke down, and the Visigoths came along and rampaged through the whole area, and they basically broke down the order that the Roman Empire had established there. So the part we're visiting is here, and so the early 400s is when it was overrun by the Visigoths, and then there was all kinds of other power bases that came through during that time in the following years. One group after another. I can name them: the Merovingians, the Franks, the Saracens, the Carolingians, and then the Normans from Normandy, and the Norsemen were there as well. So it was a period of chaos and instability, and led to the construction of fortified hill towns and defensive castles. So there's still a lot of that there. So you have a lot of hill towns that are fortified in that part of the world. But then some type of order came along. The Holy Roman Empire established itself, and the trading resumes, and a bit of peace, prosperity. And that's the period where lots of churches were built. So, visiting Europe, there's always, there's so many churches and cathedrals. And of course, we'll have a chance to pop in a couple of them, but we won't be making this our sole focus. I want to reassure you, there's only so many churches one can visit. Now, of course, you'll always end up having a bit of free time during our trip. So if you're particularly keen on this, because some people are justifiably, if you're keen on churches, there's a lot to see, a lot to understand, then you'll have a chance to maybe pop in a bit more than we have planned on our agenda. So the popes established themselves there in the 14th century in Avignon, and there was a bit of a schism there in the Catholic Church. So for about 100 years, they were there. They built their Gothic palace there, the largest one in Europe today. And they had lands there, the Papal States. It's what they called the Comtat Venesin, and it's part of the region we're going to go visit on our trip. So very important development there. And just as an aside, you've probably all heard of the Pont d'Avignon. There's a song, and that's where it is. And this is a very old engraving here. And even back then, and probably 400 or 500 years ago, it was still in pieces. The bridge is much even less whole than it is in that picture today. So it becomes French in the 15th century. Then we have more peace, prosperity, relative, of course. There's always a lot of skirmishes going on back then. So I'm going to hop in right now and tell you about our itinerary. And my itinerary is focused on not spending much time in the bus, in the transport. The last thing I want is to have you get on a bus and spend an hour and a half, on a bus. There's nothing more tiring than that. So the plan is to do a maximum, with a few minor exceptions, a maximum of 30 minutes at any one time in a bus, so that you're spending more time exploring, enjoying, being amazed, rather than sitting in a bus looking out a window. So I put here below a scale to show you the kind of distances we expect to be covering during our trips. So our first stop will be in the Luberon for 5 nights, 4 full days. And you can see from one end to the other of the area we'll be visiting, you're looking at barely 30 miles or 50 kilometers, even less. So, you won't be spending hours in the bus. But within this circle here, I have to tell you, you could spend a year and not run out of things to see and do. So don't feel that you'll be we're shortchanging you. Don't feel that, oh, there's so much to see in Provence, there's so many of the cities and places. Why are we spending so much time in this constricted area? Well, I think that's because there's a lot to see there if you take the time to look, and then you won't spend your time on the bus all day long. So 4 full days there. And these are the little towns in the region. That's where Heather and I spent 5 weeks last fall. We were right close to Minel. Minel was walking distance from where we were staying. These are all beautiful little towns, but beyond little towns, there's lots going on there. There's beautiful village markets. So we're going to be going to a village market on the market day. These are just places you can either partake in the market and look around, or just sit down and have a cup of coffee, a croissant, and just watch the comings and goings of the people. It's always very pleasant. We will be going to Roussillon and the colorful ochre quarries there. Gaulle is a classic. When I lived in France, back in the early 80s, Gaulle was just a sleepy old town with no interest. And I'd visited it, but now it's where the rich and famous go and buy their secondary residences. So these are the kinds of places we'll go visit. And in each one of the 3 regions we visit, we're planning at least one opportunity to go for a moderate hike in the hills. So maybe no more than 3 miles or 5 kilometers, like an hour and a bit, and to stretch your legs. And this will always be an optional thing to do. So these are some of the things in Luberon, the ochre quarries, the Senonc Abbey, which is a classic. This is a classic place that you see in all the pictures. This is the village of Gordes with the Luberon Valley down in the distance. La Fontaine de Vaucluse. This is it's a bit iffy, this place, in terms of visiting, because it is quite a tourist attraction. Think Niagara Falls, perhaps not as big as Niagara Falls. So it's the kind of place we're going to visit in the morning. First thing, we're going to go there in the morning before people arrive. And we're not going to go on a weekend because the locals go there as well. So I'm planning it so that you visit these kinds of places as much as possible when there'll be fewer people there. Au Pays de la Vieux, this is very close to where we were staying last fall. So after spending time there, we're going to move on via Avignon. We're going to leave in the morning, and then we're going to go to Avignon and spend time there. We're going to visit Le Palais des Papes, the Pope's Palace, and we'll have some free time to wander about this famous town. And after that, well, there's the Palais des Papes. It's a World Heritage Site, of course. There's the Pont d'Avignon. So it's a great town to visit. You can walk up. There's some gardens and a nice place to relax. That's the Rhone River. So we'll spend that day in Avignon, and then we head down to Les Alpilles. Les Alpilles South. Les Alpilles is where you find the city of Arles. So let's see what's going on in Les Alpilles. So we're going to be staying about where the word villa is indicated. I'm just now talking to the owner of that villa. We're just finalizing the details on breakfasts and whatnot. And from there, it's not a far drive at all to Arles. And Arles is another World Heritage Site where there's impressive Roman architectural remnants. It's also where Van Gogh spent a year and a half trying to establish an artist colony. He moved down there. What was it, 18? Oh, I should know that. I just read the book, 1889, around that time, and hoping to establish an artist colony. But Van Gogh was a very fragile person mentally, and it didn't work out. You've heard the story of him cutting his ear off and whatnot. So in the reading list I provided, there's a book called Van Gogh's Ear, and I just finished reading it. In fact, that was fun. I enjoyed the reading. It was like a whodunit, a woman who did a lot of research, looking at all kinds of sources to really piece together what happened in Arles. So I recommend it if you're interested in that kind of thing. So Les Baux de Provence is a famous another famous town, and it has become a bit touristic. So it's another place where we're going to aim to go visit on a weekday and in the morning. It's still worth visiting. And this is where they also have reconstructions of Roman catapults and whatnot. And I was there with my kids, and I had a great time, I have to tell you. So these are the kinds of things we'll see. Of course, there'll be a hike. And this is where most of the olive growing in France takes place, the biggest olive growing area of France. Although France is not a big olive grower, this is where it happens. So that's Les Alpes, type of little hike we could do. And I couldn't help but put some of these pictures in. Go feel free to ask questions in the chat. In the Bois de Provence, there were mining. There's a big quarry there, and big mines, and they've transformed that into one of these big places where they project images of artists with the beautiful sound and light, even some animation they've worked into the images. And I visited that last fall, and I was touched. I was touched. I'm a bit of a cynic. I get to become a cynic as I get older, but I still things still touch me, and this one did. I really appreciated it. It was well done. This is Al, so World Heritage Site, the arena, the river again, the Rhone. So after our 4 full days in Al, we'll switch villas once again. We'll head off, but on our way to the next villa, we're going to stop at Pont du Gard, and we're going to visit this another World Heritage Site, the Pont du Gard, which is the Gard Bridge. It's both a bridge and an aqueduct. Now, it does no longer works as an aqueduct, but it's just a fantastic and a very impressive Roman site. And since I last visited this place, which is maybe 10 or maybe more, 12 years ago, they put up what I understand is a very good interpretation center to help you better appreciate what went on there, the building. And so I think it's going to be very much worth visiting. So after stopping at Pont de Gard, we'll continue on to our villa over in the Comtat Venaissin. This is the papal state. It was a papal state until fairly recently, like 200 years ago or 300 years ago. So very interesting. Now this is where you'll have a lot of the big vineyards, right? The Côte du Rhône, Châteauneuf du Pape, Baume de Venise, Gigondas, Vaqueras. These are all big vineyards, and we're going to be there precisely when the vendanges are taking place, the harvest is taking place. So we're going to have a chance to see all that in action, which is always fascinating to do. Our villa will be just the one I'm looking at is just here northeast of Cap-en-Prat, and very practical for short day trips. Look at the scale again, 16 kilometers. So we're looking at maybe 30 kilometers or 20 miles from Châteauneuf to the villa, and always pretty close. And up to the very top here, there's a town called Vaison-la-Romaine, which was a very important Roman town, and we'll be dropping by there as well. Séguret, Suzette are some of the most beautiful villages in France. Great place to stop for lunch, stretch your legs, go for a little coffee. Dentelle de Montmirail are the beautiful hills, jagged white hills, interspersed with vineyards. And we'll be taking a little hike there as well. So that's a picture of Dentelle de Montmirail, Suzette. So you're getting into some rugged country here, right? You're away from the Rhone River Valley and moving east towards the hills. Now you're not in the Alps just yet, but Mont Ventoux is not far. That's the big. Well, we'll see it for the picture. And then the Alps are, you're just gonna, if you drive another hour and a half, you're starting to get into the lower Alps. So here's Vaison-la-Romaine, and here you go, Mont Ventoux. For any of you out there who maybe follow cycling, you're cyclists, Mont Ventoux is usually on the Tour de France. It's one of the more grueling climbs for the cyclists. So there it is. And so the harvest, of course. I'm sure we'll find the time to taste some wine. In fact, we're planning on a visit to a vineyard and or wine cooperative in each of the 3 regions we'll be going to. So you'll have a chance to taste some of the wines, understand the differences, and we'll be encouraging you as well to if you want to, if there's a wine you think you like to have with dinner, to just take a bottle with you and we'll have it with dinner. And Orange, another World Heritage Site, one of the biggest, best preserved Roman theaters out there. And now let's talk about our villas. I've been looking at for villas a lot. When I was in the region with Heather in October, we visited several villas. We've spoken to many uh, agencies that rent villas. We've approached owners, and so we're always looking for a villa that can host that has at least 8 bedrooms because you're going to have a tour leader with you. So there'll be 14 of you plus a tour leader. So at least 8 bedrooms, each with their ensuite bathrooms, with their the whole kit. So you all have your own little room, not little, they're pretty big sometimes, and some peace in a very comfortable setting. Each of the villa will have a heated pool. So you'll be going there on 20th of September to the 5th of October. I was there in fall I arrived on the 4th of October to the 8th of 10th of November. And I went swimming, and it was where I stayed. It was a friend of mine who lent me his house, a nice house, nothing too crazy, but he had a nice pool and it wasn't heated. And it was kind of chilly at the beginning of October, even though the weather was very warm. So we're going to make sure the villas we got, they have heated pools. And the owners all say, well, it's going to cost a little bit more to keep it heated. Well, let's do it because you want to make sure you're comfortable in the water. It'll be very nice to do that. And by the time, by mid and September, the weather's still nice in Provence. When we were there in early October, it was warm. It was almost too hot. It was a bit unusually warm, but typically the weather's fine. Um, so these are the kinds of bedrooms that we're in these villas. I mean, these are pictures of the villa we're going to be booking, one of the villas, and the en suites, and some common rooms. So there'll be nooks and crannies to sit down quietly or to have a chat with your fellow travelers. This is a villa in the Luberon we're looking at. We're about to book indoors. Oh, there's a question in the chat there. I'm just going to have a quick look. Lascaux Caves, about that. Lascaux Caves is in a different part of France. I'm sorry. They're probably 400 kilometers, 300 miles away. So it's not going to be possible in this trip. But if you want to do an extension, it's certainly easy to do. And we can talk about that. More bedrooms. This is what you can expect. Now, we're not looking at, a 5-star luxury hotel, but we're looking at well-appointed rooms that'll be comfortable and quiet and with their own suites. This is the villa that is in the Alpilles. So there you go. A lot of outdoor spaces. So these are original buildings, right? We looked at villas that have been some rich German person had built his new villa in the south of France and tried to recreate this charm of an old style villa, but it looked brand new and it just had no soul. So we passed on those. The villas will be, I'm just saying that there'll be a light cleaning service every day, but this is not a hotel. So don't expect your beds to be made every day and your towels will be changed every day. So it's like we're renting someone's big house and you're going to have a room in the house. So you'll be expected to, if you're a person who likes to make your bed, you can make one, you make it, but otherwise, no one will be coming in to make your bed every day. But linens and new sheets and whatnot. So, how about evening meals? I met when I was there. I looked around for a chef, and I met Véronique Pardo. This is the woman you see in this picture, and that's her brother. Véronique has been doing this kind of thing for many years. We chatted. I went to her house. She invited me over. We had a long talk. She does this for a living. When I was talking to her, she was about to set off to Morocco because her brother had got a big contract to prepare meals for this group of people in Morocco. So she was heading out. Um, he makes all kinds of meals from Mediterranean, from North African to Greek, Italian, and French. So I said I want to make sure, and the plan is to have her and her team prepare the meals in all 3 of the villas. So I said I want to make sure you don't repeat the same meal during the 14 days. So people will be the 14 meals people will have during the course of the trip. So all that is planned. So she will come with her team. Well, she will come at one of the villas, but her team will go to the other villas and prepare meals there. So the idea is you come home after a long day. I think I'm getting into the trip philosophy here, but you'll have time to relax. You'll have time to wind down, maybe go have a nap, go for a swim, And then at 6 o'clock, there'll be the apéro, and the chef at home will provide a small light apéro, little finger food, and maybe a little cocktail. And then during that time, also you can just to see how the chef is working in the kitchen, have a chat, providing different cuisines. And we will be providing wines with the meal. When I was visiting Veronique, she mentioned this wine. Oh, I was just over at this guy's place and was tasting his wine. He had a really good wine. It was only like €9, you know. So I went over and I checked it out. And so it's the kind of thing she does as well. So she'll select the wines, and she's not into the expensive wines, but there's so many wine producers there. It's quite easy to find well-priced, good wines. So she'll be doing that for us. And I can't see what I was hitting here. So, what are the guiding principles for this trip? I said I had some. Here they are. Built-in versatility. The whole idea here is that, we're all adults, and sometimes perhaps we want to take a break or we want to do our own thing. So it'll be easy to do that. The plan here is that every morning we're going to have a little bus, comfortable bus, and it'll be leaving at 8:30, and that will take us on our morning's activities. And at lunchtime, the bus will take us to a nearby small village or town where there are a few restaurants and whatnot, cafes. And you'll have an hour and a half to 2 hours of your own time. So during that time, you walk around, check things out, find a nice little restaurant, have a leisurely lunch. And after all that, at a set time, you meet with the bus again, and we enjoy our afternoon activities. Now, let's say I don't know. Maybe that morning you're tired or you'd rather do something else. You can stay at the villa. You don't have to join it because at lunchtime, the bus on most days, not every day, but the bus will come back to the villa and pick you up. If you say, okay, I'm just going to stay at the villa, but I'll just do the afternoon activities. The bus will come back and pick you up at lunchtime. And same thing in the afternoon. If you've done the morning activities, but you want to take the afternoon off, perhaps we're doing a hike and perhaps that's not your thing, you can take the bus back to the villa and relax by the pool and enjoy yourself. So the idea is to provide you with activities in the morning and the afternoon, but give you as much as possible, not always possible, the chance to say, I'm going to take the break this morning. I'm going to take a break this afternoon. And I'd like to say one more thing as well. It's possible to, if you say, listen, I've always heard about such and such a place. I'm particularly fascinated about this. It's not on the itinerary, but I do want to see it. It's possible to arrange for a taxi to take you there. And these are things we can discuss. You're going to have a tour leader who'll be there to facilitate such things. Some of us have passions. I wanted to see, I don't know, an almond processing facility, and maybe there's one there you've always heard about. And we can help arrange a visit on your own time for that kind of thing. So that's built-in versatility. Comfortable villas. You'll be no matter how much we try to go easy on you in terms of going out in the daytime and checking things out, when you come back, you're going to be tired. You'll want to relax. So we want to make sure you're in comfortable villas. You have a comfortable room, comfortable bed. You can find a quiet space. So that's important. And also having the meals at the villa. Because I think, again, after a long day, sometimes it's a bit much to have to go out again to restaurants in the evening. And so these catered dinners will be very relaxed, and you'll never be far from your room if you want to, talk till midnight with the guests around the table, or you want to excuse yourself and go back to your room. You'll have that option, or even an evening swim. Again, as I said earlier, we don't want to have you in the buses all day long. These trips where all you remember is being buses all day long. We're going to try to minimize that as much as possible. We're also trying to make sure we get back by 4:30 and each afternoon. So the sun at that time of year, the sun's going down at 7:20. So you're right there at 4:30. You still have several hours of daylight, which is great. Again, for relaxing, pool or whatnot. You'll have a tour leader. So you're going to be accompanied by a tour leader. I haven't found them yet, and I haven't really tried very hard. It's still a year and a half out, so there's plenty of time. But of course, and a tour leader, I'm looking for someone who can help. For me, a tour leader's got two big roles. One is he or she is a fixer. Any issues, any problems, they know what to do to fix it. And number two, they help you enjoy your visit as much as possible. They'll facilitate if you want to do something different. You've lost something or forgot something. They'll make sure all that is taken care of for you. They of course have to be bilingual. They have to be enthusiastic and a fun person. So that's the kind of people I'm looking for. So you'll have your dedicated tour leader, bilingual, yes. And of course, we'll be relying a lot on local guides. A tour leader is not a guide. A tour leader, you can't expect a tour leader to know everything about everything of the places you'll be visiting. That's why we'll be relying a lot on local guides, perhaps one to take you on the walk, one of the hikes, another one to guide you through some of the old towns who know the history and whatnot. So we'll be relying a lot on local guides as well. And of course, we'll be including, as I said, a market day in each of the regions we visit. We'll spend at least a couple of hours in the markets. So they're very colorful, and it's I think one of the fun things to do there, where there's people and activity, right? Not just looking at stones or historical sites. What time in the morning do you anticipate the day's beginning? Yeah, that's James and Joyce from Alaska. Yeah, as I mentioned, 8:30 in the morning is what we expect to be hitting the road. Uh, and we'll be providing breakfasts in the villas. So, those early bird people have a couple of hours in the morning. If like me, I would have 3 hours every morning for leaving at 8:30. And those who sleep in, well, maybe that'll be hard. Anyway, we'll figure it out. As I said, occasional optional hikes and try and avoid busy times in the crowds. So the old approach is don't wear you out. I don't want to wear you out. I don't want to run you ragged. So there you go. That's the philosophy. So 15 days, 14 guests, 3 luxury villas. These are the dates now. This has been firmed up. And the price, as I said, I'm still tweaking a few things, but it should be pretty close to that. It should be pretty close to that. I don't think it should not be any, it could be less. It could be a bit more, but I don't think there's a more than $100 variation on the price you see there. This will include 14 nights in your luxury villas with en suites, pools, etc., breakfasts and catered dinners. Now, the breakfast will vary from one day I'm asking for a light continental type of breakfast, fruit, nothing hot. But the next day we're going to have some hot stuff like eggs and whatnot. So the local transport will be in a Mercedes minibus. I'm talking to the bus people, and they're guaranteeing this is 19-passenger bus, plenty of room. Dedicated tour leader with local guides, and includes entrance to sites and museums. So what doesn't include, it does not include your international travel or any transfers. We can help with that. I mean, it's quite easy. You're going to start your trip at, let's say, the villa in Luberon. So the nearest place to get to perhaps is Avignon, which is easily accessible by TGV from Paris, or you can fly to Marseille. You can even take a taxi from Marseille airport, probably 100 or 120 euros. Take you right to the door. But these are the kinds of things we can also help arrange once you've decided to go on a trip. We don't provide lunch. So the whole idea for lunch is that you'll have some free time in a beautiful little place to wander around. If you're the kind of person who likes to have an hour and a half lunch, then it'll be perfect. If you like a quicker lunch, then you'll have time after lunch or before to wander around and poke your nose into different places in an independent manner. Of course, your tour leader will always be with you to help out. And tips. In France, tips are not a big deal, right? In Europe, we will offer tips for the tour leader there. It's a big job, 24/7 for 2 weeks, and we will encourage you to leave a tip for them. So that's it. That's my presentation. It lasted, well, barely half an hour. So I hope, hope that was good. Perhaps now's the time if you've got any questions. If you want to sign up for advanced notification, to be honest with you, I think, there's room for 14 people, but the way we're doing this, we're booking 3 villas. So we're going to have actually 3 groups of 14 people, 3 groups of 14. Each will be starting at a different villa. And after 5 days, they will rotate between the villas. Because these villas, we can't book them for just 5 days at a time. I had to book them for 2 weeks. So that kind of forced me to have 3 groups of 14. So if you want to have some of if you're probably already on my list of advanced notification, but if you're not, get onto our website at that web address, and you can sign up. And as soon as I cross the last T and dot the last I and finalize that price and create my booking form, I'll share that with you the day it happens. I got a couple questions in the chat here. What is a single supplement? Yes, that's a good question. First of all, I've people who've already signed up to be notified. I've asked how many people you would anticipate traveling with, and there's maybe a half a dozen or eight people, all women, who are saying they're traveling solo. And so I did reach out to them and asked her, would you be willing to consider sharing if that's an issue for you, of the price? And some of them said yes. So we're going to look into that when the time comes, if they actually do want to book. Otherwise, the solo supplement, it's going to be a lot because I've got a lot of fixed overhead cost, right? I mean, if it's not as if we're using one person instead of two in a bedroom, it's going to be cheaper. The villas come at a fixed cost. The bus comes at a fixed cost. The tour leaders comes at a fixed cost. So I'm anticipating the the solo price to be like right now it's 7,100, let's say, for a person shared. That would be 14,200. Solo price is probably going to be closer to 12,000, maybe a bit less. I don't know. I haven't calculated, but that's the extent. I know it's expensive, but that's the way these trips are built. It's just hard to do it otherwise. We can talk. Thanks, Mark. Well, you're welcome. Tamara, Charlotte, Jill. What are some of the optional add-on adventures before or after the 14-day tour? Well, how much time do you have, Jill? This is France. I mean, Peter Mayle, I encourage you to read his book, A Year in Provence. Listen, we can talk about that. We can talk about that. What do you like? Do you like nature? Do you like, are you a foodie? Do you like history? Depending on what your interests are, you could tailor all kinds of add-ons. You can, if you want to go visit the Côte d'Azur or head off into the Alps, etc., etc. Yes, of course, the beds for solo travelers will be split into twins. That goes without saying. Jill says all of the above. Thank you so much. Yes. How to make sure we are in the group our friends are in? Well, that's a very good question. And I will, when it's time to book, you tell me who are my, in the booking form, I'm asking, and I've already set up a booking form and asking, are you traveling with anyone else here? And I'll make sure you're in that group. That's good. So how are we doing here? Any other questions? Maybe what I'm going to do now, maybe, should I dare to unmute you all and have a big cacophony here? What do you think? I'll try. And of course, we are, this is finished. So if you've got other things to do, feel free to wander off. I won't be hurt. How to unmute. I'm not sure how to mute all here. I don't know how to unmute you. There you go. Maybe you can unmute yourselves if you like. Yeah, I think you'll have to unmute yourselves if you want to talk. Yeah, I see that. And perhaps I will also stop sharing. And then we can see each other. There you go. Hey. So, any questions? You're muted, Paul. So everyone's good?
Mark, there was another question. There was another
Yes,
question that popped up. It was around, with some of your other adventures, you guys have already planned some before and after things that we can tack on. Are you guys looking into doing that with this trip as well?
We could. I mean, anything's possible, right? And perhaps the best thing to do is, I don't know if what we propose will be the game changer in whether you want to book or not. Or perhaps we wait till people have booked and then we propose some things. Say, what do you guys prefer? And we can have a bit of a menu. It's want to spend 5 days in Paris, and or Lyon. You want to spend time working in a vineyard, picking grapes. So those are all kinds of things. So I think the best approach there is to see the take up on this trip, right? I've got a lot of interest, I have to be honest with you, and I hope that translates itself into bookings. And once if I get a good feel for that, then we can invest some time and seeing. And I'd like to offer like some time in Paris. Paris is an expensive city, but hey, I'd like to offer some time there. People could tell me, I could put up a little bit of a menu. What would you prefer in terms of an add-on, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I see you have a guidebook right behind you of Paris on your bookshelf, Joanna.
Oh, yes, I have. I've been there so many times now.
Oh, well, you could be our tour leader. You could be our tour leader.
No.
So
Any other?
Mark, we're flying, as you
Great.
know, from Alaska. And so we would like to spend 4 or 5 days in Paris before. That's what our plan is already. So
Great.
there's something that could be added on ahead of time.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Get over the jet lag and all that and get into the French frame of mind. And Paris is a good place to do that. So I could do that. I lived in Paris for 11 years and, I love it. I love, I love it. And, we could do that. Sure. And of course, the thing is, many of you perhaps will say, well, I can visit Paris. I don't need Mark to help me visit Paris. I don't know, maybe, like Joanna. But for those of you who perhaps, wouldn't mind some suggestions, we could certainly put something together. Nice talking to James and Joyce. James and Joyce went with the Galapagos with us and Antarctica as well. So thank you. There you go. Nice to see you. Any other questions out there? How many of you think maybe this is something you want to do without commitment? Yeah, I know, Joanna, you've been Paul, yeah, great, yes. That'd be lovely. I think I might even want to lead one of these. It's fun. It's a nice part of the world, and I really enjoy going there. The man who a friend of mine who lent us his house last November, October, November. I just got an email from him today. Mark, we're going to be away for 3 weeks in April, early May. You want to come again? Jeez. I said, Dan, you're just dangling goodies right in front of my nose, out of reach, because I can't. I'm too busy this time around. But that's a nice part of the world. Yes, Jill, you're welcome for the presentations. Yes, just people are saying thank you in the chat there. What else can I say? Do look at the reading list, and I also have a few little movies you're going to have a look at if you haven't done that. They're all, I think, pretty accessible. The one I really like is The Man Who Planted Trees, right? You can find that on YouTube fairly easily. It's a short animated film, but it really gives you a sense of the hard life in the more rural areas of this part of of France back in the early 1900s. It's a very lovely story. Literally brings tears to my eyes. And I've just finished reading the Van Gogh's Ear, which I mentioned earlier. Very well written. It's a British woman who lives in the south of France, and she had nothing to do. She says, "Oh, I'm going to go research this thing," and just on her own, she spent years digging up all kinds of archival material, doing all kinds of in-depth research, chasing down every loose end, and she was able to reconstruct Van Gogh's life in Arles in the late 1880s. The whole event, he delivered his cut ear to some woman. Who was she? Was she a prostitute? Who was she? Why did he go there? And his effort at trying to establish an artist colony. And I found it well written and fascinating. So it was very good. The beauty of putting together these trips, for me at least, is it forces me then to go look for these kinds of things, and then basically try to engage and learn more about them through literature and movies. And it's a very pleasant thing to do. So again, have a look at the reading list. It's not complete. The Year in Provence, I'm sure some of you have heard of Peter Mayle and his book, The Year in Provence. Very funny, very pleasant read, easy to read. His little 5-page chapters of all 1990s. He was retired and he buys this old beat up farmhouse and he tries to restore it all, and it's all his adventures with the locals, and they're all funny personalities. Apparently the locals weren't very pleased at what he wrote, because he's kind of making fun of everybody in a pleasant way, though. And he basically got run out of town. He had to move. But it's a pleasant. Yes, Nasrin, are you raising your hand for a question?
I just wanted to ask, I'm not sure if I got this right. So, altogether, how many people will be on this trip?
14. So it'll be a group of 14. So not a big group. Yeah, I was thinking, should it be 16? Let's not be too big here. And the ship we use in Galapagos a lot is a Samba, and it's a 14-passenger ship, and so it's a nice size, I think. And yeah, as I said, the plan is to have 3 groups of 14. So each will start at a different. We have 3 villas for 2 weeks, right? So each group starts at a different villa.
So altogether, then there'd be 42 people? Is that right?
Yes, but they'll never see each other. You'll never see the other groups.
So you're
It's,
never on the bus with each other, or
No, because one group will start in Luberon, another group will start in Alpi, and another group will start in Contavenesin, and then they switch, bloop, you know, and bloop. So they never quite see each other.
okay.
As I was saying, these villas, I have to book them for 1 week at a time, and I wanted to, I think 1 week in the villa, switching to another one is, I thought it would be more practical to do it that way. Yeah. So where are you talking from, Nasrin?
I'm in Toronto.
Oh, Toronto. Okay, very good.
I kind of assumed a lot of people were from Toronto. I was a bit surprised that there was somebody from Alaska, actually.
Oh, yes, no,
But then,
no, no. I think we have people from all over Canada, United States here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe you can write in the chat where you're from so that we can all get an idea if you like. Yeah.
and the other thing I wanted to ask, actually, you mentioned a lot of things about movies and things. Where are these pieces of information?
If you go to the website on our Provence website, there's a menu. It says reading list, and reading and watching list, and you'll see it there. I'll write down the website right here.
Okay.
www.cnhtours.com. Oops. Provence, right there. So, hold on, how's that working? Did it go? Yeah, we have people from Vancouver Island, Seattle, California. So it doesn't seem to be. Oh no, I'm sending it to everybody here, right? There you go. Got the email right, the website right there. So what else can I say? I'd just like to add that the book The Year in Provence, the author Peter Mayle, who he made millions off that book. They made movies. You know, he wrote Another Year in Provence. Toujours, he went on a roll with that book, and so he ended up writing a book also. I think it's called Confessions of a French Baker. And so he wrote it with a French baker that he really liked. And it turns out that the woman who was going to be our chef, she's the ex-wife now of that baker. So she told me how she's cooked for Peter Mayle, the author of this book. She knew him. He's passed away now, but so the little connection there, you know. But it's a nice part of town. The vineyard that Mrs. Pardo sent me to look at these wines. The guy in charge, he was a real local character, but he spoke a wonderful English, and he was telling me how John Malkovich, you probably heard of John Malkovich, the actor. He's got a place just down the road. He said, "Yeah, me and John Malkovich." John Malkovich says, "I got good wine." He says, "You should sell your wine in New York, and I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you get your wine sold in New York." So he said, "Yeah, we worked for 2 years. We go to New York, shows, bringing wine. What a headache." It's exactly what he said. He went, said John Malkovich is not a good wine salesman. So, you know, he's this guy from the vineyard, this classic personality you would have seen in the Peter Mayle book. You know, that kind of guy was chatty, full of stories. Yeah. An issue with the link. I'm sorry. The link to the website I just gave you. Northern Wisconsin on Lake Superior, yes. Oh, I forgot to put the tours. It's cnhtours.com. Let me try that again. It's a typo on my part. www.cnhtours.com. Provence. There you go. That should work. Sorry. Richard, I see you there. Leyland, where are you at, Richard?
Whidbey Island.
You're Whidbey Island in Washington. You're on one of the what do you call them? The Gulf Islands, not the Gulf Islands. What do you call them there? Is that it?
It's one big island. You're thinking about the San Juan Islands.
That's right. No.
Just to the north of me.
Okay, very good. My wife had this from Victoria, so yeah.
Richard was on the Samba with us on the
Oh, were you?
Galapagos.
Is that right? Great. Samba. I'm talking to the one. Was Juan Salcedo your guide at the time? Was he the guide? Juan? No.
Oh, Juan, we
Yeah.
did a road tour.
Oh,
That
yeah.
Mercedes had set up, and Juan was the driver interpreter on that.
Oh, it must have been another
On the-
one then. That's
On the
another one.
boat, I don't remember, Ricardo?
Marcos?
Marcus.
Marcos. Okay. All right. No,
On the
the
boat.
owner is one, and he's also one of the guides. And I'm talking to him right now. Or you were setting up a group departure for Antarctica, or that wouldn't interest you because you've been already. But and Juan wants to be our tour leader, and he's done seven tours to Antarctica already. He's led 7 tours to Antarctica. So we're just talking to him about that right now.
I'll give you a shameless plug. The Galapagos was one of the best trips we've ever taken, bar none.
I'm happy to hear that.
I
that was-
totally agree. James and I have told so many people that, saying it was a trip of a lifetime, just magical from sunrise to sunset every day. It was amazing.
I'm glad to hear that.
I'm really glad to hear that. We leave April 23rd for our trip down to Quito and then the Galapagos. So thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
No, your expectations are too high.
Real high.
Not that good. Not that good.
It is better than anything. It was better than any other trip we've ever taken, and it was one I would actually repeat, and there's not a lot of trips I would repeat, but that one, by day 3 or 4, we were exhausted and it didn't matter. We had to just get up and keep pushing because every day was so exciting and so different. And yeah.
When they're banging on your door at 5:30 in the morning, okay, you gotta get up. What? Sure. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'm glad. Well, I hope you shouted out for the mountaintops in Alaska. It's amazing. I think we have a disproportionate amount of people from Alaska coming on our trips. I don't know why. There's not that many people in Alaska yet. Proportionally, I think we have a lot from Alaska, so it's great.
We had a lot of folks ask us, why the heck would we go to Antarctica if we lived in Alaska? They didn't quite realize northern, southern hemisphere in time.
Yeah. It's the summer. Antarctic summer. Sure.
Thanks very much, Mark. I'm gonna
Look.
head off because I've got to pack. I'm actually traveling tomorrow morning really early, so.
Okay. Well, thank you
have
for
to
spending
actually-
time with us. Okay.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Nice to meet you. You know where to find us.
Yes.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. How's everyone? I have how many people are still on this call? There are 15, eh? So I guess I'm not seeing everybody's faces here. There's Christina. Christina's with us in Africa last year, right? You're on one of the San Juan Islands, are you? Or you have a place there? No,
right now, but we do have a place up on Orcas
yeah.
Island, so just
Orcas, very good. Great. Nice to see you again. It was great to get to know you on our trip in Africa.
yeah, we had a fantastic time. Really
Yeah,
nice.
it was good. It was good. I remember the Africa trip. It's got me thinking, because you do sit around a lot, eh? When you're you're doing on safaris, and that's why I worked into our trip to Provence some hiking. Even in Provence, we'll be standing up a lot. You're walking around a lot when you're visiting the south of France. You're not just sitting, looking out a window, right? So even though we'll be walking around a lot, I'm also working in a couple of hikes, and that's in response to what I felt was lacking on our trip to in El Kavango. So I know you, Jim, as well. You guys are big hikers and things.
Yeah, I did do the walking safari that morning.
41 seconds.
Oh,
What's that?
I did the walking safari one morning, but I would not go out for a hike on my own.
Yeah.
No, not a chance.
Yeah, I understand. I see other names like Suilam and Lingma. Those are names that are very, very familiar to me. And but I've never met you, and so I'm glad you're here tonight as well. Christina, you're one of the few people I've met. I think I see Kelsey, my colleague, who's here. So she's listening in. Thank you, Kelsey, working late at night. Some of you probably have interacted with Kelsey Bradley. You can show yourself, Kelsey, if you like, or Sue.
I have I'm sitting in the dark, I guess. But I'm here. Hi everyone.
Okay. Well, you're saying I don't pay you enough?
Or
You can't
almost
pay your electrical bills?
Very funny. I can turn it on for a second here, but it's just
There we go.
unless I turn
Right
my
on.
screen up. There we go. Hi
There
everyone.
you wow, wow.
I just have
There's
some very nice relaxing lighting going on right
okay,
now,
very
just to
good.
kind of decompress, I guess, for the week.
Some of you know Kelsey, yeah. And
Yeah.
Joanna's married to Heather's cousin or something like that, right? Joanna, is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah. So
probably a second cousin. I'm not sure how they're related, but yeah.
something like that, right?
Mhm.
So great. And yeah, it's good to see everybody. Listen, I don't know. We can keep on chat. Well, I see more messages. Let's see if it's worth any questions there. Many thanks. Okay. Okay, everyone's has to run. That's fair enough. When will Juan lead the Antarctica group? Well, it's on our. It's going to be on our website in the next couple of weeks. I'm just putting it together. That will be the end, something like the 20th of February, 2026. And we'll have a group tour. It's going to be a CNH tour with a CNH tour leader who'll be making sure that everything's going well for you. And there'll be, you know, because you're in a group, you can get a bit of a group discount as well for the cabins. So that's another little advantage. And you'll also be traveling with the CNH Tours kind of people, like we see here, interesting people who are switched on and curious and willing to maybe get up at 5:30 in the morning. Yeah.
So your Antarctica trip does he go to South Georgia?
No, it's not. That's the problem with Antarctica, right? You have to choose. You have to choose. So South Georgia usually includes Falklands, South Georgia, and the Peninsula, and it's a 21-day trip. And it starts to get expensive, eh? So I'm just afraid if I pose that as a group tour, I won't be able to fulfill my quote. I need at least 12 people, right? I'm afraid I won't be able to reach that. And
So you're a small group. So are you joining a big ship or something?
for Antarctica,
Yeah.
we choose smaller ships. I mean, they're a lot bigger than Galapagos. See, the small ships are bigger than the biggest ships in Galapagos. So the ship we're looking at, or we're booking, is a Greg Mortimer. It's 130 passengers it's going to take on. And that is about almost as small as it gets for Antarctica. And the reason is that you're not allowed to disembark more than 100 people at a time. So if you have like 200 people or 300 people, it becomes a logistical nightmare. So you might have 100 people disembarking, and they're there for a couple of hours, an hour and a half, but then the weather changes and the ship has to leave because ice is moving in and the other people don't disembark. So it gets complicated. And so with 130 people, you've got maybe 100 disembarking, 30 that are going on zodiacs, exploring, the ice flows or whatever. So you have a much more versatility. So that's why we're choosing a smaller ship. And we're going to do the Antarctic Circle. So we're going to do an extended peninsula trip. The peninsula trip is usually like 10 or 11 days. This will be like 13 days. So a bit longer, get all the way down to the below the Antarctic Circle. And yet towards the end of February, early March, it's getting towards the end of the season in Antarctica, but that's when there's less ice. So you can get further south. And there's a lot of whales too that time of year. So that's one of the, the thrills of going that time of year. I'm trying to read comments as we go along here, but it looks good. Yeah.
I'm kind of interested in a South Georgia only trip. I can find
Just South
many
Georgia.
trip days because I
Yeah.
have been to all three. I've been to Antarctica, South Georgia, and Falkland Island.
That's all right.
My feeling is too short. Each place too short. I want to focus on one place, especially South Georgia.
Oh, you like to just go to South Georgia and spend time there?
Because if you go to all three, you need a really long trip to really enjoy all of them.
Exactly. Well, you know what? It's worth looking into. If you want to explore this, and I can put you in touch with our colleague Kevin Sampson. He's our Antarctica expert. He worked 18 years down there, 18 seasons, and you can explore that with him. He might help you find a trip that might just do South Georgia or one that spends more time there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So let me know. Reach out to Ling and let me know. We could look into that. My battery is showing that it's going to die. I'm not plugged in here. I had to move aside for this. I might end up disappearing any moment. So don't be insulted if I just do that. Any more questions out there? Oh, Kelsey in the dark. It looks very eerie.
It's really not that dark here. I'm sorry. It does look very eerie though.
Yeah. Are we good? Shall we call an end to our talk? Call it a day? Yes. Okay. Jill, I know you're not Jill, but it's the name I see there. Okay, and same with Robert there. Steinbach, yes. Nice to see you. And Susan, I think we were exchanging notes today, Susan, about the solo thing. So I hope I answered your question there. And listen, I'm going to shut this down now since we're hardly anybody left. Nice chatting with everybody, and do reach out. And if you got questions, take care. And how do I turn this off? Here we go. Take care. Good night, folks.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, you're welcome.